Okay, so in this video I'm going to go over SQL Management Studio. We're going to do some very basic tasks in SQL Management Studio, mainly around connecting to the database and doing a few simple queries. But I want to mainly focus on some of the basic things that you can do and some of the basic things you need to know in order to connect to the SQL management, the server that you're trying to manage. So first of all, I'm going to run the program, which is available here for me, SQL Server Management Studio. You might have to dig a little bit inside your program files, but I'm going to assume you know how to do all that. So we're prompted with this connect to server dialog here. I'm running on SQL Server 2008 R2. However, it's been pretty similar for the last couple of versions. At this point, we can see that the server type is set to database engine. You want to make sure that that's the case. There are other types of connections, and I will go over those in the future videos. Once you make sure it's database engine, the next thing to do is to make sure you have the server name inputted, which I have here. It's my local computer, and then the authentication type. Now, you have two options here. You want Windows authentication in a lot of cases, but sometimes you'll use SQL server authentication when you have a specific username and password and you're not using the Windows authentication to connect to the database engine. Okay, so there are some other options. I'm not going to go into these connection properties or additional connection parameters, but there are things here that you can tweak. It's a little bit advanced for this video, but right now I'm just going to connect to the database engine. Okay, so now that I'm connected, one of the most important areas is going to be the Object Explorer. And I believe you can just go to View and Object Explorer right here and press F8, which we'll do, it's already up, but basically if it wasn't, you could press F8 and you could pull it up. So one of the things you'll see here in the Object Explorer is the name of the server, the version, and you'll also see the user account that you're logged in as. And so that gives you some context to what you're doing. You can actually go and right-click and do a bunch of things here. In other videos, I'll probably go into more details because there's some really cool things that you can actually do from this option. But for now, we're just going to not worry about that. But just want to let you know it's there. The thing we're going to focus on is going to be the databases section. And as you'll notice, I have quite a few databases here. Each one of these are databases, separate databases. That's because I have a lot of applications that need a database server, and so I share the same database server in this case for testing on this particular server. So if we look at and expand on one of these databases, we'll see even more options. This stuff is pretty straightforward, but I just wanted to make a note that some of these things are here. Database diagrams, you sometimes have to have a component installed, and that's why we got this message. There's some things involved with diagramming that I probably will create a video on diagramming, although it's not as used often as you might think, but it is used quite a bit. Because the diagram can actually generate tables and things like that for you as well. So it's more than just a visual tool. Okay, so we're going to focus mainly on tables here. What I'm going to do is I'm going to show you a couple of very basic things. I just expanded the tables section. That's why we see all these tables here. What I'm going to do is I'm going to finish this video up by showing you how to do a basic query. We're just going to do something very basic that most people might be familiar with, but just in case I want to make it a little bit clear. We're going to click on the New Query button, which will open up the next important area, which is the actual query document area right here. I'm going to go ahead and do a very basic select query, and I'm going to select star. Now notice that I'm selecting star. That means all the columns. We want to pull back all the columns. And from is a special keyword, and it's just telling us from what, from what table. In this case, it's and it doesn't always have to be a table. There's other things to consider. But for now, we're going to pull from a table, and we're going to pull from the account base table. Okay, and now we're going to actually hit the execute button, and that's going to return. And there's no records here. There's no records. But I kind of wanted to show you this because you can see both the fact that you use the select keyword to select from a table. Star means all columns, so we got all these columns back. And from just is it helps the query analyzer actually know that you're referring to a particular table here that I've specified. If I were to have done just account ID from account base, then that's all I would get. So you can actually select only the columns that you'd like, or you can select, well, there's several ways you can select. That gets kind of interesting. But the basics of it are that you can select all the columns, or you can even specify individual column names. You can also do something like this if you'd like, which allows you to basically give a more friendly name to the column name. You can, if you want to put a space in it. It's not always the best idea to put spaces in column names. In fact, it's generally a bad idea. But the idea is that you can make basically what's called an alias, or you can give it another name for this column name, and that's this keyword as here. So, you know, some basic stuff here in select, and I'll go over things more in more depth in the future videos, but I wanted to focus on how we could connect to the database engine, and then how could we explore the database, the engine itself, and see what databases are there, and then go into this query that I can show you real quick. So anyway, that's it for now. Thanks.